When we received this absolutely magnificent, beautiful lantern clock by Cartier, we really thought that we've gone as far deep into the subject as possible. How wrong were we? Let me tell you why, and let me tell you what happened. So this clock was last at an auction, and I think I even have the auction catalog here. It's an auction from 1994. Here it is, a jewelry auction. And here it is. Absolutely the one and only. It's electric, it's beautiful, and all it says is that it is circa 1925 signed Cartier. There's absolutely no mention of the crown. The crown is without a doubt the crown of Egypt. By dating the clock, you would conclude it's either King Fuad I or King Farouk, his son. Given the Bulgari box and the date 1954, it was to us pretty straightforward that King Farouk, while in exile in Rome, purchased it at one of his famous favorite jewelers, Bulgari, in Via Condotti. And now listen carefully how chaotic my last few days were. I was approached out of the blue by someone, can't name the person of course, saying, I have this envelope here and I bet you want to know what's in it. Well, I never called myself an Indiana Jones of watches, but some people did, and I really felt like Indiana Jones this week. Because if you have a letter addressed to Princess Feki of Egypt, you want to know what's in it. I'm delighted to say I received this envelope this morning on my desk in Geneva. And the first thing I see are two, in my view, from Cartier taken black and white pictures. Here, it's exactly the clock. You even see the electric wire here. And you see the crown up here, the crown of Egypt. So far so good, you will say, because it explains and proves everything we already knew, that it must have been King Farouk at one point buying it for himself. As a matter of fact, whereas many specialists, and that auction catalog dated to the mid-late 20s, many specialists insisted that this platinum and diamond crown was later. As late as the late 30s, maybe even 1954, when it was apparently retailed at Bulgari. One thing we never understood is, why is there a pinhole on the other side of this double-dial clock, but no crown? But the most obvious thing would be, of course, that you find the same crown on both sides, as the clock should be seen from both sides, an exceptional feature in fact for a clock. Wouldn't it be normal and obvious that you also have the Egyptian royal crown on the other side? But in the envelope was a second picture. Let me show it. The second picture features a crown indeed, but not the Egyptian one. It is the Iranian crown. The what? Not the Egyptian, the Iranian crown. So how can this be, and what is the newly gained insight? Of course, more interesting papers in here. A commercial invoice, that's what we call them today, which is basically an invoice accompanying an object for the transit. Issued by Cartier, 13 Rue de la Paix, Paris. And let me read it out to you what it says. One Chinese pagoda clock in jade, mother of pearl, coral, enamel, onyx, ménager, that means equipped to be a illuminated desk timepiece. The invoice continues, furthermore, two crowns, an Egyptian and an Iranian crown in platinum and diamonds. The clock was invoiced at 18,000 francs. Just the two platinum crowns were invoiced at 3,500. Why are these crowns so costly, you will ask yourself, compared to the 18,000 of the clock? Again, we needed the help of scholars. Let's think back. The clock was made, as everybody insists, in the 20s, maybe late 20s. But the most interesting thing is, that this commercial invoice is dated the 15th of March 1939. So obviously, if you consider the ever-increasing cost of manufacturing things, the cost of living, it is quite possible that by the time it was made and inventorized for 18,000, prices were lower. And when the 2 crowns were added in the March of 1939, prices were higher, hence proportionally higher price for the 2 crowns. But here comes the scoop. Here it says at the bottom of the commercial invoice, offerte à Son Altesse Royale, offered to His Highness the Princess Fawzia at the occasion of her wedding. So we have a letter to Princess Feki and a commercial invoice that says it is a wedding gift to Princess Fawzia. Thankfully, history books, Wikipedia, friends in Egypt and in Iran were able to solve the mystery. Let me introduce those 2 princesses to you. King Fuad I, from his first marriage, had 2 children, a boy who passed away when he was an infant, and a girl, Princess Feki, the firstborn daughter of King Fuad. King Fuad then divorced and had a second marriage. The most notable offspring of that unison is King Farouk I, who took over the Egyptian throne from him, and he had an elder sister, Princess Fawzia. And here comes the amazing discovery. On the 15th of March, 1939, Princess Fawzia married
Mohammad Reza Pahlavi,
Crown Prince of Iran, the later Shah. So here is the story. This clock was sold to Princess Feki, who in 1939 lived in Paris. And why is it so interesting? Because it was sent to the Hotel Trianon in Versailles. She lived with her second husband, Count Vladimir, who was the Egyptian ambassador to France in Paris, went to Cartier, who had this not yet sold old stock nephrite clock available, asked these 2 crowns, the Iranian and the Egyptian crown, to be added as a wedding gift to her half-sister, Princess Fawzia, and her husband,
Mohammad Reza Pahlavi,
Crown Prince of Iran. The wedding, taking place in Egypt, was a massive, the most massive event back then. Luxury at a level that probably in the Western world back then nobody has ever seen. With luxuries for the guests, bonbonnières, as they say, wedding gifts in gold, flowers on the Nile, fireworks at night, parades. It was the unison of 2 very important royal families. Princess Fawzia, who then later, when the Crown Prince
Mohammad Reza Pahlavi
became the Shah, became Queen of Iran. And she said herself, isn't it a remarkable thing? My father was a king, my brother was a king, and my husband were a king. She lost all the 3 eventually, as we all know, as in the years later, both Egypt and Iran abolished the kingdom and the Shah's ruling. Princess Fawzia from Egypt was a highly educated and beautiful princess. As a matter of fact, not just because of her beauty, because of her charm and her education, she mesmerized not only the people of Egypt and the people of Iran, but also other royal families and even the media around the world. No surprise, for example, that Cecil Beaton photographed her, called her the Venus of Asia, and she was even depicted on the cover of Life magazine in 1942. Sadly, the marriage did not last as long as everyone hoped, and Princess Fawzia, or the Queen of Iran, as she was then, divorced from the Shah. This clock, as a work of art, is not just an object. It was a history lesson in the last few days for our international team and many scholars and historians whom we consulted. And this is why still every morning I wake up with a big smile on my face. What we've learned in a matter of days, thanks to a simple envelope containing a few sheets of paper, changed the history of this clock, brought us enormously closely back to what the 20th century was all about, in its full splendor, beauty, but also drama. And now that the Iranian crown is no longer here, we can just assume that following the divorce of Queen Fawzia of Iran and the Shah, this was removed at her request. Over the last few days, this clock has occupied all of my energy in my heart and up here. It transitioned from a magnificent Cartier clock with one crown to a Netflix-worthy drama thanks to images, thanks to research, and it is now no longer just a museum quality clock. Now it is a beautiful and dramatic witness of the last 100 years of mankind, and I think that's the reason why we continue loving these vintage pocket watches, wristwatches, and clocks so much, as they're not here to tell us time, but to tell us history.